This is episode 295 of Gold Squadron Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, William Hankwood. Who cares? Because today I'm joined by Ryan. Remember, boys, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Sanazuski.
Except what goes on List Fortress.
And James, six-ship wizard, Ritter.
Hey guys, very excited to be here.
All right, we have an exciting episode today talking about the Sector series, but first I want to thank all of our GSP Patreons. These podcast episodes, a lot of what we do here is brought to you by exclusively the GSP Patreons. So I just wanted to thank everybody who is one and let you know that becoming a Patreon makes you a part of the largest group of supporters of what GSP does. Patrons get exclusive access to patron-only content on our Discord, depending on the level. We do also send out quarterly gifts. Next wave of gifts should be the Republic Assault. Check out patreon.com/Gold Squadron to become a Patreon today. Actually, I think that's the new Poe arts and stuff that Dion had posted last week. Poe and a couple other alt art cards. So certainly check that out on Patreon. But more pressing than that is our Sector series. Last week was the first week of the Sector series. Ryan, what is the Sector series?
Sector series, as a reminder for those who may not have caught up as to what is happening currently right now, that is the happening event of all X-Wing. Sector series being run by GSP. It is designed to be a weekly round-to-round basis event where the idea is each sector is a time slot throughout the day to help bring people together that would not necessarily are from the same time zone or from neighboring time zones, but specifically if you're someone who works at the night and has more time in the mornings, you have the ability to sign up for a time slot that best suits you to play X-Wing. So 1 round per week, we're doing 6 rounds. The sectors have been populated. Round 1 has already taken place and completed for Assault at the Satellite Array as the first scenario. The one trick in this whole Sector series is you also can change your list every single round. So you do technically have the option to tailor your lists to each scenario. Your lists are not shown prior to your opponent. You basically both show up on TTS with your little save discs, hit spawn, both your lists show up, and then after you submit your results, you submit your lists then as well, and those will be recorded at the end of every round, so we'll see how maybe some people evolved their list choices round by round.
All right. Well, speaking of list choices, we want to cover a couple of the lists that we had pulled right off of our Roll Better information. So, Ryan, let's start with you. I got your list pulled up here. Walk us through it.
So I went with a Republic list, but surprisingly, maybe to some, in Assault, I did not take a single Arc 170. I did not take a LAT. I did not take a Gauntlet. I took all 5 small base ships. I took Anakin Skywalker in the 7B with Extreme Maneuvers, Predator, and R2-D2 Astromech. I took Siege of Coruscant, Ada Obi-Wan, who has Patience, his ancillary ion weapons, and R4P17. R4P17 being different on this SL card versus the customized upgrade version. Kickback from Siege with those Diamond Borons and Munitions failsafe. Custom Contrail, so your regular one, not the Siege one, with Crackshot, R7A7, Delayed Fuses, Besh, and Proton Bombs. And then Click from Siege with his Extra Shield, R3, ESC, and Precision Ion engines.
So why did you take this Squadron Assault if it doesn't have those medium bases, we would assume?
So I am going with the mindset of I'm not trying to tailor my list to certain scenarios. I'm just flying what I'm considering for worlds, and seeing how it does. Just trying to get some practice games in. Even if maybe someone decided to tailor on their side that's stacked against me, can I overcome it? If I'm theoretically being put against something that could be considered a bad matchup or something that favors my opponent, how can I attribute my list that is meant to be an all comers work out for me in each scenario? Will I keep using this list throughout the whole event? Maybe, maybe not. There's some other lists I'm definitely trying. So maybe I'll switch to them, but it won't be because it's specific to a scenario. It'll be because that's what I'm feeling like that day.
So you rate this as a take all comers list.
Yes. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Born for this, even though it's only on 2 of my ships. Kickback is an extremely good Born for this ship, being the only one to carry and evade. Click with the click locks, helping protect Ada OB, and Contrail getting in tight to that range 1. And Anakin off doing his own little mission. It's very thematic to me. Obi's there, like, commanding his clones, doing cool things, and Anakin's just off on his own little mission, doing whatever he wants.
And that's
him and R2 in a dream. That's all. That's all you need.
that's 7B, so that's 3 attack dice, 6 health, and
7 point. 7
point. That's a serious ship out there. Well, how'd your matchup go? Win, lose, as expected?
So, my matchup was against a gentleman named Paul, and he brought Scum. He brought. He plans to go to LVO. We discussed a little bit of his list afterwards. I'll say the pilots, but I won't go into too much detail of some of the upgrades in case he wants to keep it close to the chest, just for him. He went with a Scum list. Brought Kanan. You can assume who the crew was on Kanan.
Who would you think?
Some angry dude with a double-bladed lightsaber. I don't know.
It's the Vaj, isn't it?
Close. And then we have he had Manaru, he had Dirge, and he had the Mandalorian.
That's an interesting list, actually.
I'll highlight just one. So because specifically this was effective against my list. He has Gar Saxon Gunner on Manaru. And your click locks can be used for that, by the way.
No.
Yep.
Wait.
So fair warning. So I'll read Gar Saxon.
Oh, yes, because you spend the lock. Be careful. Yeah.
So Gar Saxon Gunner, for those who may be curious as to what I'm speaking to, the first part of it, while you perform a lock action, you can only choose stuff in your front and back arc. Not a big deal. But while you perform a primary attack, if the defender's in your front or back arc, you may remove 1 orange or red token from that defender to roll 1 additional die to max of 4. So if I go and click lock 2 of my ships, that literally is just free Gar Saxon.
Free Gar Saxons,
for Manaru.
Yikes.
And then you even get to keep your lock to spend because you probably locked as well.
Yeah. Or I mean,
my gosh.
R5P8 exists there too. So he had his own rerolls. He had a focus, and
there's the secret sauce. If you hate click, just take Gar Saxon.
If you're flying click, just pay attention when you go up against a scum list. Look for Gar Saxon around there, because you may want to say, all right, I'm going to adjust my tactics to click lock my opponents only and affect them attacking me. Because in that matchup, I was much more concerned about only Manaru and Mandalorian's range 1, not as much Dirge and Kanan. So I did have 2 specific targets that I could have click locked instead of locking my own 2 ships.
I have a question for you. Did you realize it?
So I actually knew about this in a game about a month or 2 ago.
Oh, okay.
I did not remember though. So at first I autopiloted myself to locking Contrail and Obi. Luckily, I didn't take a ton of extra damage by doing that. But I tried to work my way around dealing with it. I ended up I bring big rocks with the Republic list, and I tried to clutter the field as best I could in the area where there was the most amount of objectives to make it difficult for the medium and large base ship to contest as much as they did. I try to maximize with my repositions and my maneuverability just on the dials that those ships have, which is really good in general. How well I can contest 2 points at once, because there ended up being one small triangle of objectives for assault, which is what most medium or large spaceships will want. I clutter the air with rocks, but my small ships are still able to move around and contest 2 at a time. But if it's just my OB contesting middle and Mando's contesting middle, his Mando's going to get it. But OB is now still accounting for 2 spots that I could contest just with him. So it's just trying to make sure that I try and utilize, especially the Ada. The Ada's really good at just existing in those rock areas and like using the system phase repositions. I'm going to land with something with a rock in front of me, and then I'm going to get out of it the next turn and work my way around.
Sure. That is interesting. I wouldn't have thought about the Ada as like an objective piece, but in Assault, when you can barrel roll backwards hard 1, barrel roll backwards hard 1, you don't have to go anywhere. You can hang on that spot all day.
Yeah. Or you can, like I said, get to a spot where you have to contest something, even if a rock's like right in front of you, and just get out of it later.
Yeah.
I definitely dropped a proton bomb with Contrail that OB R4P17 just to not take that damage. So I do like that interaction where I can drop that proton bomb and OB can just hang out there and just take a strain for it.
Remind us, R4P17 is when you take a damage outside of defending?
Yes, when you would be dealt a damage card. If you are not defending, you may spend 1 charge, 2 total, no reoccurring, and gain a strain and discard it instead.
Right. It's perfect for rocks.
Obstacles too.
And then obstacle selection, if you're bringing Obi-Wan, you might as well bring the big rocks, fly through them, take a strain, who cares? Get into a spot nobody's shooting,
Yeah,
a
lot of people will not expect it. That's for sure.
No, they will not expect you to not like you said, like to line yourself up behind a rock and not system phase around it, to just 5 straight through it.
Yeah, once you choose not to system phase, there's like a now what are they doing?
Just
question mark here.
It's like I'll let them do it, but
but overall it was a really good game. It was tight. I didn't get a lot of kills early on, but I tried to test with objectives, and I got like 3 of his ships down to extremely low health. So like at any one of the final turns, I was killing 1 or 2 of his ships to pump my points back up for the win. We ended up forgetting a structural damage Dirge. Dirge, by the way, Scum Dirge, no joke. That thing's slow. Like his list in general, because of Kanan, Dirge's ability, Mando's ability, and just Mando being 9 health on 2 agility. Like you're not killing anything extremely fast, because the Kanan's the obvious reason, but Mando's ability can help that defense extremely well. And then Dirge just says, I'm not going to take that 2 damage. I'll just take a crit, as long as there's more results than my shields left. And not every crit's double damage, so it affects the ship. And we ended up forgetting a structural damage towards the end that we rolled back and had to make sure that like Dirge got the right day. So we probably forgot a couple turns earlier, but overall I ended up with the victory, 23 or 24ish to like 15 or 16.
Nice. Not to spoil your future games, but is this something you plan on trying again, or is this just kind of like a test for this list?
This list could definitely still be on the docket to be played during Sector Series.
Interesting. Okay.
I have about 2 or 3 others with this one.
All right. So sounds like it worked as expected. Well, let's move on to James. I got your list pulled up here. You were flying Rebels this week. Give us a rundown of that list.
So pretty fun Rebel list with 3 A-Wings, 2 X-Wings, and a Z. Has the 3-point A-Wings with Arvel Krenin, Derek Clivian, and Keo Vinzi. And of course, the 2 good 4-point X-Wings with Garvin, Boy, and Jack Boy, and Blount to round up the list. Choosing to go with Blount instead of probably the better choice in Kraken, but I really liked that extra budget 3-die gun, and keeping all my ships at initiative near the same initiative. Yeah, it's a pretty fun list. The A-Wings have vector cannons, and flying Keo was a lot of fun. Was able to get into some pretty weird spots and had to make some pretty interesting decisions on if I wanted to vector it or not. Because if you vector and then you do a side slip, you're most likely stressed. So, but you do get your force back, but it could put you in a really good position. So it's interesting that you can choose to vector it if you think it's going to put you in a better spot, or choose not to vector and side slip. It's an interesting choice because you get to choose in the system phase if you vector cannons or not, if you boost or rotate, and then after that you can choose to side slip or go your normal maneuver. So it was actually pretty fun. And then Arvel is just so much fun. Getting in the way of other ships and getting that Predator crack shot. On more than one occasion, I was able to get lined up a really great shot at range. It's range 0 for Arvel, so range 1 for him. But I ended up going against a Republic list with it was Jag and Wolf Siege Coruscant. I had Sicko, Tarkin, and Ahsoka in the CLT. So pretty interesting list. I hadn't thought about going with Tarkin to help share some locks around, a little bit extra locks helping. But I was very lucky with my 2 X-Wings with those advanced proton torpedoes, because I was able to get both of them at range 1 of Sicko in the first engagement, and took Sicko off the board with those 2 shots, with those 2 advanced proton torpedoes. So they both were, one of them did 5 damage and he rolled the blank, and then the other one did 4 damage and he rolled the blank, and there were just like a ton of crits in there, so eventually he went down. But it was very important. I think after I took him out, I was like, I could probably lose one of these X-Wings this turn. I'd be happy with that.
Right.
But yeah, after that, for that game, it just kind of, the A-Wings were zipping around the arcs, because he had to split them up a little bit. So the A-Wings just zipped around the arcs, and they really couldn't get a beat on them. And it was a pretty fun game. Ended up, I think 23-8 at the end of it. So yeah, it was a ton of fun though.
It's definitely interesting to see a use of vectored cannons. It's definitely not a common pick right now. I see you in most cases, besides with Arvel, you partnered it with some missiles like Thread Tracers on Keo and Mag Pulse on Derek. Any of those combos, or the trick shots available there in the list? Any of the triggers that felt good to do in this list that you might continue to use in the future, or conversely, stuff that you brought that maybe you might switch out?
Yeah, I think I would need to do some more testing, because I really wish I had a way to get locks to Garvin and Jek for those advanced proton torpedoes, which at initiative 4 or higher, which I didn't have in this list. So I think that may be one reason.
You can't get that at 3 points, can you?
Because
Kraken's got a torp, but
he doesn't have a missile.
No, he would take a torp, but
he's got
plasma torp, and then gives out the lock.
Yeah, but that means Kraken has to be right up on him to get past the lock.
That's true. He's got to be following around. Well, I mean, they're the same speed, if you will. They're like their chassis fly around at the same speed.
Yeah. Besides that, I think maybe I actually liked the Thread Tracer trick shot combo on Keo, just to get some extra help on that Thread Tracer to see if I can push those locks through. Because with once Derek and Arvel can get those locks, it kind of really helps them out with their damage as well, making sure that those 2 die guns really hit.
Interesting. Did Jack blow up? That's the only thing I care about.
He did not. No, I think I think the only ship that I lost was No, I don't think I lost a ship in that one. I think he got 8 points of scenario. So,
Okay.
yeah, I was able to. I think both the X-wings were limping and using their R5 charges.
Oh man, those are fives.
A combination of death by 1,000 cuts and then 2 gigantic haymakers with
yeah,
the advanced
yeah.
proton torpedoes.
Yeah, he was. I think after the 2 shots went into Sicko, I was like, "Wait, did I just do 10 damage?" I was counting it. I was like, "Yeah, I think Sicko's dead." He was like, "No." I was like, "I counted it. I think so." Yeah.
Well, next time, as a note, reinforce your lat if there's a potential double proton coming in.
Yeah. But yeah, I really like the vector cannons a lot more than I do the vector thrusters, especially on lower initiative. Being able to like almost immediately like rotate or boost and then do your maneuver like with full knowledge is pretty awesome.
Nah, I can't fly A-wings without that rear arc. The time on target is huge, especially if you're flying Tycho and you got that cannon out the front. Just a tiny little fire spray out there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But yeah, ton of fun. I think I probably won't fly this one again. If I do, I'll probably change up a couple things maybe. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. 6 ships.
There you go. You can't go around with 6 ships. All right, we'll cover my list as well. I flew Republic, which is strange for me, but I need to see these arcs on the table more so I can learn to defeat them. So I got Jag and Wolf, of course, with their abilities to share mods and double tap. So good. I brought Obi-Wan Kenobi. In the regular Aether Sprite with Shattering Shot, Elusive, and R4P17. That's the pattern analyzer. Do a red move, get an action. Probably focus if you're Obi-Wan, but, could be whatever you need. I have Contrail with Chopper. It was inspired by Hexiled Bounty that I actually really liked. With seismic charges and Besh on there as well. And then Luminara with Patience, R7, A7, and Calibrated Lasering. Targeting, of course, because I don't really know what to put on my Barris, to be honest with you. Oh, sorry, Lumi. I think I said Barris a couple times. Lumi. Luminar is the one who can spend a force to change your crit to a hit or your hit to an eyeball. Obviously, when one of her friends or herself is defending. And that combination with Chopper I thought was really interesting, so I wanted to give it a second try. Being able to jam somebody so they don't have a focus, and then it's makes that Luminara much more powerful. Actually, I've been using her ability a lot to keep crits off the arcs. If someone rolls in like hit crit and they got a focus, I'll just change the crit down. So I don't get any like nasty weapons failures or something like that on the arcs. I really like the combination of Born for this and Obi-Wan's ability. So you can basically throw a focus token from the arcs to, we'll say, Contrail. And Contrail then, when they spend it, Obi-Wan can give them that focus right back, which is a very interesting combination to me. It lets Obi-Wan actually fly around without a focus token as long as he's got those arc protection, and he can just use that himself, which is, like I said, very interesting. I'm not sure about... I really like Luminar, honestly, but I'm not sure she's optimized, if you will. I got to get a better lowdown on her or something. And I don't know about Chopper Contrail. It's cute, but I don't know if it's like really, really good. It is nice to take the evade and then have an arc throw you a focus if necessary. So I really don't feel like I'm out on defense when I'm just flying around taking those chopper evades. I faced off against Tim he was flying kind of like a scum salad with Afra and an M3A, and he had a non-Caval Y-wing, which was the scariest part about that was the ion cannon. I did not want any of my high agility ships to get ionized because where they were fighting was like in the center of the board. So if anybody got stuck there, which inevitably Obi-Wan did, Obi-Wan got hit with that ion cannon, and there was just nothing he could do, no help, because everybody just kind of converged on him and got him destroyed. I was able to pull off the win through a mix of some objectives and taking Afra down. The final round, I did, oh man, what is it? R4P on Jag, or really any arc.
Yeah.
Is just money, because I K-turned him one round, 3 banked with the droid, and then 4 forward barrel rolled to grab 2 objectives out from underneath of him to snatch up the win, basically secure it in activation before any shots were done. Which one of the reasons why I brought the double arcs was for the assault. I think Jag has the maneuverability. I feel like between that R4P and the barrel rolls, I don't think I'm using the arcs right though. I just kind of joust with them and just hope they survive, which they never do. Wolf always dies. Every time I've tried to play this, Wolf just gets blown up in like the second round, which happened in this game as well. But yeah, I pulled off the victory though. Moving on, I gotta face Matt Carey this week, and I'm not excited about it. Love Matt Carey. Nervous to fight him with one of my spin the wheel lists here.
Yeah.
So I had to be. I'm coming for you, Iron Man. They're gonna be Whiplash. That's what we're gonna be. No, nobody ever beats Iron Man though. Oh. To be the Infinity Stone Gauntlet. That's what finally took him down. Spoiler alert.
A couple years later.
I mean, if you didn't see one of the highest grossing films of all time, I don't know why. I don't know who I'm talking to here. Yeah, so that was last week. So let's move on to this week of the Sector series. This week's going to be Chance Engagement. So 1 center obstacle at the end of the round, starting at round 2. There's 2 points up for grabs. If you and your opponent are both in range 2 of the center, you split those 2 points. But if you're the only person in the center, you get both of them. The biggest thing, though, is half points are back, which means that you are rounding them up.
No, you need to deal half of their health rounded up.
Half their health rounded up to get half their points rounded down. So I'm a 3-point contrail. You do 2 shields to me, I'm going to give you 1 point. But if you do the remaining 2 hull, I'm going to give you the remainder then of 2 points. So let's break that down here and talk about then what pilots are you trying not to bring? Ryan, what are you not bringing into Chance Engagement?
So you don't want to easily give up points. I mean, it sounds obvious, but you want to have, I think, ships that don't give half easy, or their half isn't easier to get at a high value. So an example would be, I think if I were tailoring to this, I don't know how many 1 agility ships I really want to bring to this game. It seems like that it may not be what I target first, but it seems like really easy to pick up half points later whenever I just point a gun at it in general, or a couple shots at it. Now, that doesn't mean that all 3 agility things are going to be the best things available. You do also want to make sure you have stuff to output damage to make sure you do secure those half or full point kills on opposing ships. So you need to find a balance of something that doesn't give up those half points easy, but also can output the necessary damage to go get those points. But you also need to make sure that you have ships that don't just. I think I'd want to avoid stuff that is forcibly would end up either moving too fast or has certain movements that require. I would say. Like a certain amount of speed to be relevant, I guess. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
The range 2 bubble exists, right? And there are games where towards the end of it, you're in a weird spot where one of your ships might be about to die. It's maybe the only ship left to exist in that range 2 bubble. And that extra 2 points your opponent, that extra 1 point your opponent gets, and the one you don't get could be a nail in the coffin. So it's either having the ability to maneuver yourself back into that circle when necessary, versus having I don't know, maybe you have a YV666, right? And Boss has made his way, and he's made his pass. He ain't coming back really easily to get back in that circle. And it's leaving his buddies behind. Now, you could plan on doing stops, self-bumping, or bumping into enemies. But I think if you are bringing ships like that, you need to be very cognizant of the obstacles you're bringing too. I think this is probably something that can go for any list, not even just when you're planning for chance. If you're planning for an opportunity like this to tailor a list to a scenario, but don't just bring the largest obstacles because you think you can outfly your opponent and you're better because someone else is going to inevitably be better than you, or their list is going to be better made to deal with those obstacles. So I've seen enough like Ray Falcons and like multi-fire sprayer, multi-big ship lists that bring big obstacles, and I just kind of question those all the time. I think especially in something like Chance, that could be a hindrance because if a list like mine in Republic with a bunch of small ships that can move around those big obstacles, and I'm bringing big obstacles to threaten stuff that is larger, that I can use as an advantage against my opponent. If you also brought 3 big ones, you just got 6 big obstacles to deal with your big or medium-based ships to move around. So I think almost as cognizant people need to be if they're tailoring a list to Chance about their pilots, they need to do that for their obstacles too, because you have to try and exist within that range 2 bubble with at least one of your ships. But if a centerpiece or a large majority of your list is medium or large base, you need to make sure you're bringing obstacles that don't take up a lot of space so you have space to exist in there for as long as possible.
That's an interesting point. I mean, it feels very big because it's range 4 in diameter. But once you start putting ships and obstacles into the center, it can get pretty small very, very quickly. I've actually seen a lot of people they essentially put their obstacles on the border or close to it to make kind of like a ring. Do you think that's going to be better than just trying to shove all your big obstacles into the center to prevent your opponent from scoring?
I haven't had a chance to really think about specifically how I'd want to arrange rocks, but I think what I've commonly executed in the past is kind of creating that ring within it. So what it's mitigating is the chance for my opponent, or as long as it's advantageous to me, I'll do this. To set up some rocks maybe on their side of the board or maybe on the left or right side, depending on how they've been putting obstacles and how I want to fill out the rest of the board, but end up creating a spot where I don't just put a bunch right in the middle. I put them on the outer, the inner part of that range 2 along the circle so that there's less space for them to just kind of barely be in that range 2.
Right.
There's spots that like I now put an obstacle there, and you cannot just put the corner of your base there to contest that without potentially hitting an obstacle or an obstacle being in your way. And it also ends up creating lanes to be able to go into it. So not only am I limiting the skirting the edge and still being in range 2 of maybe like a falcon with a side arc or something with a 180 or a turret, etc., but also I'm end up creating lanes at which you can even come into the middle. And by funneling that, I have an idea of how you want to be in there or attack it. And if you spread yourself out too much, trying to be like, oh, I don't really want to go in these lanes, I want to move my way around. Are you going to be able to contest the turn 1? Am I going to get a free point? Maybe.
Yeah, I think that's really where the minutia of the strategy comes in for Chance, because I mean, like everyone could just point towards the center and fly there, right? But how you can gain that advantage is forcing those lanes. But you got to be careful yourself that you just don't pour all your ships right down the middle and be able to get flanked as well. So there's a little bit of a balancing act there. James, let's talk a little bit about what pilots should be bringing. What are advantageous pieces to chance engagement?
I mean, like something obvious, like that you could take a look at would be something that could heal back up over half, like old school regen, where you
I don't think you
could
get your points back, do you?
You don't get your points back, though.
What, really?
No.
Yep.
They've actually changed it.
No, they
One
banned.
of the first changes they ever made is once you go down to half, even if you regen above it, you've gotten those half points.
Well,
Well,
that
it
does
would-
not work anymore.
Well, it would help you stay
still
alive.
valuable,
though.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, like to giving up the
Yeah.
higher amount of points. I think that's still valuable.
Yeah, like not dying could be good, but also take a look at like your point values, because like as an example, if you are a 3-point ship and you get half pointed, you only give up 1 point, whereas if you're a 2-point ship, it's still the same. If it's you still only give up 1 point. So because of the rounding down, odd numbered points are actually beneficial for you. You can squeeze out a little bit more efficiency for each point that you give up in half points. So if you're same thing, if like you're 5 points, you only give up 2, the same way you would give up 2 if you were only a 4-point ship. So just keep that in mind, that odd point ships work a little bit better in chance engagement on those half points. Other ships that like don't take damage at all are really great, like Kylo in the Silencer, where he just skirts around, does his big attack, and if you can keep him from taking damage, it's really good. But that's kind of a double-edged sword, because if he does get half pointed, you're getting up a lot of points for that. So maybe try to balance that out. Are you thinking of any like specific pilots that could be good, or ships?
Maybe like I mean, I'm trying to think about like more like chassis. Maybe like are we thinking like turrets? Because you do have to be like in that range too. You know where your opponent's going to be, or at least one of their ships, you assuming will be inside the center. So it's maybe like a side arc, something somebody could be looking at.
Yeah, and maybe other ships that like to be close. Maybe stuff like Nantexes, or
knife fighters.
They have turrets. They
do
also
have turrets.
fang fighters, really great at staying really close. Can just kind of like shove their ships kind of into the middle and just be like, okay, well if you're going to be here, you're going to be at range 1 of me, so I get my free evade. That could be really beneficial, and then kind of go from there. But yeah, I think turrets are a really great way to start. I was trying to build a list around Nora in the Y-Wing, just because she's so amazing at being really close. Like even bumping, like just throw an ion cannon turret, and you're kind of set, because like they even if they bump into you, you still get your free evade from everyone shooting at you. So
Interesting.
yeah,
Well, she's also ability to bring bombs.
yeah,
Yeah.
Bombs could be a good effect because you got to stay within range too, and bombs could theoretically take off a whole quarter of that area.
You know
That's
what
true.
bomb would be really great?
I was gonna say,
Electroproton bomb.
do we think anyone brings an electroproton?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Maybe. That's
if
interesting.
you know where the fight's gonna be, you can just put the bomb there.
Yeah, there's no launchers, but or trajectory simulators, but I mean, you
Yeah.
could see a bombardment drone just out there, either maybe dropping proxy mines into the center or big bombs like that. What do you guys think about? I know we don't talk about it very much anymore, but what do you think about potentially bringing a chaff cloud to this with such obvious lanes your opponent has to take?
They have to go through it.
They have to go through.
Tactical bombers can still take it. They just can't take that and approximate anymore. Doesn't mean they're not good.
I mean, I've still seen
Still
them on
very disruptive.
CAD.
Yeah.
You can still easily fit them on fire sprays.
I think rebel wise, can't you?
Rebels, you're looking at B-Wings, as I think you're only chaff carriers right now.
I thought.
Y-wings can, right? There's
Oh,
a
yeah.
couple missile-
yeah.
Some of the missile ones, yeah, could.
Yeah.
Iman, or not Iman,
Dutch.
Avon.
Dutch can as well.
Pops, I know he's got a missile slot. People have been rocking missiles on him. So that could, I mean, it's an expensive piece, but man, when you know that everybody is coming to that middle, if you can engineer a way to funnel them into that chaff cloud, it could be pretty advantageous.
Even something like, because it's cheaper, you only get one of it, but cluster mines,
Yeah.
so when I talked about putting those rocks kind of on that inner perimeter of the range 2, one thing you yourself have to keep in mind of when you're doing that, if it's on both sides, and what your opponent has to keep in mind of, are your exit lanes. And if you get funneled into those exit lanes because there are rocks there, then it becomes more easily predictable where you're going to go, where you can go. Also means putting a cluster mine wall between a couple rocks could be quite a problem for some ships.
Oh, yeah. Interesting.
I think the only other thing to consider is those ships that really demand at the beginning of the game when you look across the table and say, can I even reliably kill this with my list? Your Boba Fett's, your Vader Defenders, those ships that most people, when they see them, have to decide, am I going to try and kill this thing or the rest of their list? Usually the answer is the rest of their list, because it's a lot easier than trying to go after that 8+ point ship that's really hard to kill. But the kicker is you have half points. You don't have to kill it completely. So it's a double-edged sword. Sometimes those ships, they're not more of a liability in chance, but they give up some points. They give up more, sometimes 4 when you have them. So you might bring it because some people may just decide to never try and shoot it. But some people might, and they'll get those half points, and it will matter a lot more than the half points anywhere else.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up for one of the strategies, is that I think about half points as chance engagements objective points, because you're only going to be scoring realistically 5, maybe 6 points, depending on the length of the game out from the center. So you're going to need to calculate a lot more ship points into that equation to get to 20. But like I said, obviously half points come into that factor. So when you do see somebody like Boba Fett, you're like, well, all right, so I get 5 points from objectives. I can get 4 points if I just take his shields and put a damage card on him. All right, so that will get me to 9. Where do I get my other 11 points from? I think that's not calculated enough into the initial approach. As you're saying, every time I look at a list, I'm like, okay. For most scenarios, I'm like, I only need to kill about half of you guys, and I get 10 scenario points, and we'll call it 20. But those calculations are much, much different in chance engagement. But if you see 9-point Darth Vader, if he's stuck in the middle, that might be something that you can go towards because he's worth so many points, give you that big leap up, because you know you're not going to get them from objectives. What about? Is there any other strategies to kind of play off of the amount of low scoring you can do outside of scoring ships, or scoring the center, obviously?
I mean, some people are able to play a little more passive for the first couple turns. If you send just one thing kind of skirting the edge of the middle just to make sure you contest, depending on what the opposing player does, some players might get another turn or two to set up their ships that may want to flank or get in a different position, attack from multiple angles. Both of you are trying to do the same thing. It's a whole lot of potential attack from different angles, one-on-one fights where it ends up being like, all right, I look across the table on the left-hand side. Grievous is coming towards me, and say I'm a CLT OB, right? I don't want to be outmaneuvered by Grievous. Grievous doesn't want to go toe-to-toe with me in the front, like facing each other in a joust. Yeah, Obi gets to go after, but Grievous could decide to either shoot past Obi and get to other ships or turn into the middle to help his friends. But both lists have only sent one-ish thing to the middle. Like, are you collapsing in the middle because everyone's about to collapse? Or are you starting to square up with someone else on the outside because you're both trying to set up a flank on the same side? It's sort of the... play a little game of chicken sometimes with chance when you're when you're playing that little bit of stall game. Who's going to make that move first to the middle? Am I too late? Did they just commit everything and now that one or two things that are in the middle, or they jumped something outside of the middle but still are contesting?
Yeah, that actually brings up a good point that if you recognize your opponent's going slow and is only going to dip their toes into that range 2 on round 2, you need to be able to recognize that and not just throw your whole squad in there. That timing of round 2, I think, is very important. Like, obviously, if they round 1 5 forward all their ships right towards the middle, like that is concerning. But if they just got a large base, just one forward and real slowly, you might be able to take that time and get a better position for most of your ships. You do not have to just, as fast as you can, fly towards that center objective. I think you said it before, but just keeping like one ship back to just skirt the edge just a little bit on round 2 could give you that opening. Is there any other like timing questions?
Yeah, something that Ryan said kind of really made me think about like what kind of lists or ships or pilots really like to delay a little bit. I was wondering if we maybe could see some more separatist of the probe droids come back a little bit, because I feel like they've been really pushed out of the meta because you can't sit in a corner and set up your probe droids then attack.
Right, because you normally need turn 1 to launch, turn 2 to grab the locks, and you're only engaging on turn 3.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of engagements are starting like sometimes turn 1, a lot of times turn 2. So that extra time could, if you're able to skirt the edge with one of your other ships and let your main force set up those probe droids and come in with a huge alpha, like that could really wipe out 1 or 2 ships.
Interesting. Okay.
I feel like Ryan's mad at me because that's what he was thinking.
No.
It's like that sounds like a great list for Ryan.
Potentially. I mean, to me, I think the some ships that do what you're saying reminded me of HMPs, but the ships you can knife fight and side slip, like Keo, HMPs, Sicko. Trying to think of, Adas as well, because they can barrel backwards. Yeah, anybody who can stop and just post up there, whether you're like a YV who can just contraband and sit, a gauntlet with like Fen Round Crew or something. I guess that wouldn't work. Fen Round Crew asks for non-stops.
Fen Round Pilot doesn't. And he's
Fen
a
Round
Fang.
Pilot. He is a
We're
Fang.
just talking about fangs. Ooh, that's like half a list right there.
There you go.
Over
That's half
half
the
your
list. Interesting. Well, I will say this much though, to kind of put a cap on it, that I think though, as much as we've been talking about specifics, chance engagement is the opportunity to fly more of a wacky list, because you're not required to go out and find objectives. You're not required to take scenario actions. You can more traditionally dogfight, whatever that might mean to you. Whether it's like a small formation going into combat, like the 4-ship rebels of old, or something like a bunch of flankers coming in from different angles. Really is open to a lot of lists to be successful, but those small differences, especially in target priority for scoring points, I think is what's going to make the difference for each of these matchups. Let's see. Yes, I did pull them up. So. Looks like we got a little bit of time left. I wanna try something with you guys. So I got there is a team event going on right now. For those unaware, there's a Kyber Team Championship. I pulled out some of the top 2 teams that actually got paired against each other this week. So I wanted to take a look at the list and kind of pick your guys' brain about how you might match up these squads, and to kind of compare the no, maybe not compare, but because it's a team event, you match up your own pairings. So essentially, you put one list down, they put one list down, and then you reveal a second list to fight the revealed one, and then the third list fights each other. Pretty simple there. So let's take a look at these lists, though. So I'm going to start with official team. France is their name. I did not know if they're actually the official team, but by name, they are.
I recognize one of the players, and I know they're not from France. So
Well,
I'm pretty sure it's a joke.
We'll say it's fine for now. Let me steal this and see if I can pull it up here. Sometimes these Longshanks are a little funny. No, it looks like this one's good. So we're gonna start with. You're gonna skip all the vowels in the first name here and go Condre. Is flying their resistance list. This is Lulo, Kaz, Zay, Wabi, or Roby, Finn, and BB-8. So that's 444, 332. Okay. So kind of a salad, if you will, because it's got 2 of each, but kind of a resistance salad. Let me see what they have for their Imperials. Oh, no, said did not like that. Let me try that again.
So to kind of remind people, this team event, when you have to pick your lists, this is 3 players per team, and you pick a faction per player, essentially. But the caveat is you only can pick one faction from each era. So if you have to pick Empire or Rebel. You have to pick First Order or Resistance, Separatist or Republic. And where does Scum come into this one? Scum can be picked any number of times. It is free game for Scum. Scum could be one of the lists, or it could be all 3 of the lists.
That's true. So you'll see why there is a number of essentially different factions in here. Everyone's more or less flying a different faction for their team. So I did get the rest of their squad. So we got, that is, man, I should not pick the French ones, but we'll try it. Corentin Row, flying the Imperials. We got Boy Vader, Soontir Fel, who? The what? Then Iden, Moff Gideon, and a Black Squadron Ace. So 66332 with some double ace action there. And then the last one, which should be Funwalk in Separatist, has Django, with notably a heavy laser cannon, amongst other things. General Grievous Volandas, that's the organic tri-fighter. And Sox 404, Siege of Coruscant 404, with a potential 6-dice advanced proton torpedo. So I'll review those quick to get them in your mind. So we got Imperial Aces with TIE Fighters. We got Django Grievous and +2. And then that Resistance Salad. Now, they're facing off against Nickel City Hexwing. One that me and Marcel's team got wiped by. They are all very good players. And they are flying, let's see here, we got Ben with the Imperials of Darth Vader, second sister, Morna Key, and a TIE Fighter. We have, this was Catherine Nixera with a 4 silencer build, all with advanced optics. Then the last one was Greg, and he had brought Django Grievous 3 drones, Bombardment, Vulture, and Vulture. So my preface to you guys is because, like I said, we want to focus on how you evaluate a matchup. So let's start with, we're looking at this from France's view. Let's start with that Resistance Salad. With Lulu and Kaz. Which of those what's your opinion on the better matchup for the other team? The Silencers, the Imperial Ace, the Decimator and Vader list, or the Django Grievous list?
This is to match up. So the best list the Resistance can match up into, or the worst list the Resistance can
Well, give me both. I mean, this, like I said, imagine you're the team captain trying to narrow these down. How do you assess these matchups to try to find one that is good or one that is bad?
Yeah, well, I think that is what you need to figure out first, is go through each of your lists and find out of the 3 that you're going up against, what's their best, what's their worst, and then put all those together and see what the best outcome you could try and create realistically. Now, I'm not too familiar with how the pairing process is myself, but on the Resistance side of things, this is a 6-ship list, 3 of which have have basically 3-die attack guns on a consistent basis. I count Finn as the third one next to Kaz and Zay. Lulo, you got to choose. Sometimes you got to play passive and not stress yourself to be safe, depending on what's across from you or what's sort of squaring up to you. Rorby and BB-8 are probably just there to be a little bit of annoyances / objective users. Now, in terms of, let's see. Man, Resistance really doesn't like having to deal with a 7-sister crew often. Lulo especially does not. Now, granted, Lulo's fast. You can have a lot of say in that. Rorby won't really like that. And Vader, no one to threaten that Vader at I6. That one could be dangerous for Resistance. Although they do have a lot of guns to put on that Morniki as well. That Imperialist pretty much is a 3-ship list with a little TIE fighter flying around doing objectives. Mm-hmm. 4 silencers, if played correctly, could be dangerous though too. By themselves, each of them are pretty durable. Lulo's the only thing over their I-4 silencers. But Lulo doesn't really want to square up and chance because these silencers can turn on a dime on you. They all have sensitive controls. They have systems.
Yeah, as a note, yeah. Sensitive control silencers.
Yeah. So they have the option to really mess up some plans of lower initiative stuff that the Resistance also has. I think the Resistance, it's weird because the one thing with the Separatist list is as easy as all that combined fire would be to take out those vultures and hyenas, you're only scoring yourself 7 points by killing those ships, which generally by kill ship total, not enough to get the job done. And if you leave Grievous and Django alone, you know how dangerous they can be. So it's tough because there are issues potentially with all of them, but I think
the worst matchup is the Empire.
Yeah, the double
might be the best.
Really? Past that double reinforced Morna, huh?
I don't even know how often you should be double reinforcing with that Morna against most of those ships that have 2 dice, maybe 3 at times anyway. Maybe helping in the initial push through. But I think what's the scenario for this week? That's a big deal.
That is a great question.
I
want to say scramble. We had converged our scenarios for a week, so now it's throwing me all off because we're playing Chance and Sector, and yeah, it's scramble for the 3rd week of the Kyber.
Yeah,
so scramble. You have to be using your action.
So higher initiative, good, but not a lot of ships. Also an issue, maybe. So all right, scramble means that the Resistance might have some expendable bodies to do those scenario actions with. Those droids and Separatists really don't want to do scenario actions. Those silencers kind of don't either with sensitive controls at times. They all have invested in advanced optics.
Yeah, I feel like with that being said, I feel like the silencers may be the best matchup with scramble.
For the Resistance?
Yeah, yeah, for Resistance, that would be their best matchup because they're sensitive controls, and they have before and after the silencers move, Lulo can take it and then boost, or the lower initiatives can grab it before the initiative force can grab it and block exactly.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, and Kaz has the chance to move last against them as well.
Right.
I won't say the Resistance one actually gives me the most question as to what really is the best or the worst, but I think the silencer one doesn't have as much of the initiative killing issue that you see with Boy Vader, with Django. Those are the only 2 ships really that are even. There's no I-5s on the whole. What is it? What is it? The Nichols?
Nickel City X-Wing is what they.
X-Wing. Yeah, Nickel City.
That's Catherine and Greg and Ben.
Yeah. So I wonder if their Resistance list was their like. I'm assuming
more
this
of a
pairing
take-all
process,
commerce.
something's got to be like put down first.
You have to put one face down, yeah. So
I feel like the Resistance one might have went down first because I don't think there's a clear-cut yay or nay on this one. There's issues with every list, but there's also some advantages, especially because of scramble with every list going here.
So maybe if that is what you thinking might be their take-all commerce, might be easier to try to pair the other lists here. So let's take a look at the Imperial list. Try to do mashups for that. So this is Boy Vader again with Soontir and 3 TIE fighters. One of them being Iden and the other one being Moff Gideon with cluster missiles, overtuned, and targeting computer. Interesting. Very offensive Gideon out there. Is that worth going into the silencers? Do you think Soontir can really dance with the silencers and Boy Vader?
I think silencers might be. They're a sturdy chassis. They take a lot to bring down. I think if I were to guess, they probably want a pair because to maximize the Moff Gideon cluster missiles, Iden next to Gideon and the other TIE fighter to just kind of move around and get objectives. But the fact that there's 2 I-6s between Vader and Soontir, I think their best matchup might be Separatists.
Oh, to counteract the Django. Okay.
2 I-6s against Django, cluster missiles for the droids, and Moff Gideon's ability makes those droids really, really sad.
Yeah, no calculates. You cannot mod your defense, which, just could
Or even
take
Django. Django really wants to mod his defense to stay alive because he really has no other way to do it like Boba does.
True, whether that's Reinforce or the Dooku. Interesting there.
We confirmed whether or not Moff Gideon messes with Reinforce, though.
It does.
It does, yeah. Because you add a result, which is modifying dice.
Okay,
it is,
even though it's outside of the mod.
there's very few modifications that are outside the modification step, and yes, Reinforce is one. Bosk is the other, where you're adding a result in the neutralize result step, or after it more specifically. But it's very rare. But those do count as mods. I'm just trying to think of like a second sister as well. Converting all your results to crits is actually after the neutralize result step as well. So there's a couple cases for it.
James, Will, what list do we think is the worst for that Empire list from?
See, I was interesting you said it, but I was almost going to say Django myself. It's the rear arc and bombs. Moving after those I-6s, I feel, and potentially dropping a bomb that those TIE fighters can't avoid, I thought was actually going to be the worst matchup. But I do understand the thought process you had up for it. I think that it's kind of neutral on the silencers. If not bad against the silencers.
Yeah, I think it would not be great against, even though you do have the 2 I-6s against the silencers. I think they're so beefy that it's going to be difficult to one round.
Beefy and fast too. You're going to have a hard time keeping a beat on one, even if you heard it.
Yeah, it's like you're realistically looking at Vader and Soontir's guns being the main way to get offense on those silencers, because those silencers are probably splitting up, they're converging, and Moff Gideon is moving at the same initiative as them, and it might not be often he's going to be able to get a lock to contribute with those cluster missiles with overtune modulators on the specific turn that they really want to.
Probably unlikely that they're going to be flying range 1 of each other too.
Yep. So a lot of your offense is being put on that Yavin, Vader, and Soontir fell, which we know Yavin Vader hits like a truck. That's not a problem. But it is still a silencer that could just evade all the attack. It could just, you have 3 dice defensively. Could just not take damage.
Yeah, I think if they are able to go against that other Empire list, even though it could be a little bit of a mirror in the Darth Vader boy, I think that may also be a good matchup with being able to possibly take out that Morna key pretty quickly.
Interesting.
Because of the Moff Gideon to prevent the reinforce from occurring twice that turn.
Sure, that makes sense to me, because here, I mean, you're going to be able to get around Second Sister with Soontir, hopefully. Morna does have some defenses with that Enduring and the Seventh Sister. In case Soontir wants to get too close to line up that bullseye, could be looking at, what is it, a jam or a tractor? Instead of the stress.
Yeah, instead of the stress.
Yeah, tractoring Soontir back into your arc for Morna Key. So there's a little bit of play there, but that is interesting. It sounds like the Empire list might not have the best certainty, if you will, throughout all these the 3 other opponents' lists. What about this Django Grievous Volan Das? We do have a little bit of a mirror with Greg's Django there, and we've talked a lot about how like Darth Vader might want to go against another I6. How do you think that this Django Grievous Volan 4-4 matchup would go? Who are you trying to pair it into?
I think what I don't want to see is the opposing Vader Mordecai second sister list.
Okay.
I think its issue there, Jango Fett not having Notorious means Vader has no problem just laying into him, even in arc. And Volan Das, albeit sure, 3 agility, has a shield upgrade, just 1 shield. And Vader could also be very damaging punching through that. And who knows, second sister shooting later and getting crits through as well with Malice. And then Grievous has to be very careful. And so does Volan Das. Has to be really careful when they decide they want to do a linked action around Mordecai. There's not a lot of guns on either side. There's basically 3 main guns with Vader, second sister Mordecai, and then Django, Grievous, and Volan Das. With 404 kind of being careful around there and trying to find the opportunistic advanced proton torpedo while not trying to be absolutely destroyed by Vader anyway.
Yeah. Vader's going to be looking for that torp to try to shut that down.
Yeah, so I
think a best matchup might be the silencers as well. Being able to.
Yeah, it sounds like the Imperial Monarchy is off the table for this squad.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to, like, Grievous's shots, Django shots, and Volan shots, the 3 shots to get taken care of by Reinforce and just mitigate it down. And trying to tell Grievous or Volan to help Django track down Yavin Vader.
Yeah. The enduring on that Monarchy means that that Reinforce is going to knock off the crit every single time.
Unless she's bullseyed.
Yes. Well, yeah. I mean, bullseye. She is just a decimator after all. But yeah.
Yeah, I think those silencers at I4 will basically guarantee that 404 gets his advanced proton torpedo off.
Yeah.
And with Savage Oppressed on Django Fett can also
I do love that combination.
Oh, it's so good.
Walk us through Savage here.
So after 404 does the barrel roll lock, you can spend Savage Oppress to give 404 a focus token. So it's got to be in front of Django at range 1 to 2. But if you have 404 in the front, and it does the barrel roll lock, and then gets a focus. So basically, your 6-die advanced proton torpedo is now double modded, and he can't die. He can't be initiative killed because all your entire list is initiative 4.
That's true. Yeah, if you can catch a good road on that round, it could be really advantageous.
I mean, even if he doesn't, these are the sensitive controls. So you either choose to reposition to not take that advanced proton, or you take your mod.
True.
And then Grievous and Django can just clean up after that.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page as you. Might want to avoid the mirror match in this instance, and go with the silencers, just because you have all initiative for yourself, which is a big deal.
And Volan,
I would say if the mirror match did end up happening between the 2 separatist lists, I think I favor the Volan and 404 version, because with Django, Grievous, and Volan, I mean, they got probably a good chance of killing at least a vulture a turn, if not sometimes 2.
at least one vulture.
Grievous alone can probably just nuke 1 if he has an outmaneuver.
Sure.
That's just easy. But combined fire, they could probably take out the hyena no problem. But it's like doing that sometimes can lean into what the numbers game I talked about before. Where killing the hyena and the 2 vultures only nets you 7, then you need to reestablish your firepower to then deal with Django and Grievous. But it is also scramble. So if you kill those droids fast enough and don't lose out too much on the objective race, you could kill those 3 droids and start pushing the buttons and tapping them onto your side. And now there's only a Django and Grievous flying around that have to worry about the ticking clock and trying to kill stuff back.
Interesting.
And I think Volandas might also have a good matchup into the silencers, being able to hand off strain every time Volan does a red maneuver, which is those 1 Talon, 3, and 5K. So being able to 5K behind the silencers and hand off a exchange his stress for a strain on one of those silencers after they've moved already, and they're really good. Those silencers are really great at knife fighting with those sensitive controls like barrel out and candy cane back in. Volandas just says, "I'll go behind you again," and just keep going behind you.
I haven't played a lot with him, but I do love Volandas's ability because it's like the one thing that you don't want to do on your Tri-Fighter, which is do a red maneuver and be tokenless out there.
Yeah.
But he rewards that risky play. Really do like him.
He does have that dead man's. just in case.
Dead man switch, yeah. Dead man Predator is really funny. To just fly him in and get some kills. He might actually be really good in chance engagement. We were talking about people who earlier can do that knife fighting. I mean, 1 Talon roll, stress-free?
Stress-free.
That seems like knife fighting to me.
And Volan does like to have more ships out there to have more options to
because it doesn't... What amazes me is that it doesn't say front arc, it doesn't say side arcs, it just says range 1.
Yeah, range 1. It's a pretty big bubble when you're thinking, I just need to land there? Okay.
Yeah, I just need to land somewhere. Fully execute. That's step 1.
Yeah, and you could even push that further by putting afterburners on him.
Yeah, most people reach for that shield, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a great
Does that timing work? I guess so.
Yeah.
After you fully execute, I don't know. Does that work, Ryan? Be a judge here. does Volandas's ability enter the queue even without a ship?
It doesn't say if there is a ship at range 1.
After you fully execute a red maneuver, you may choose an enemy ship at range 1. The chosen ship gains 1 strain token. Yeah, there's no if you have thing blah blah. It's very different wording than say
Anakin's CLT. Yeah.
Anakin's ability in the Aether Sprite with
if there is an enemy ship in your bullseye or at range 1,
right,
then you could do this.
All right, this one brought up Anakin, but I think he's talking about the overlap of Chopper and R4P 17,
right.
things
all
that.
The extra things.
Right. That's interesting. I don't know if people would be splurging for that afterburners, but it could be really advantageous with those 5 and 3Ks.
I know I generally see, or what I've at least I believe is probably the 2 main choices on Volan is we either go the route of shield upgrade and then a 4-point talent or a 3-point talent or dead man switch and a 2-point talent. Or you go the route of Notorious, pick Contraband or Overtune modulators with Notorious, and you got 4 points left for whatever missile you want to throw in there for utility, whether it's a cluster if you have Overtune, not bad for cluster, or if you can go Mag Pulse because your I-5 utility of knocking something down with Jam off and deplete in case you're not going to kill something. and you want to neuter its offense coming back at you, though, or knock a box off.
Interesting.
It'd be interesting if multi-missile pods could be good there, because you're doing like these sloops back or these K-turns back and forth. If you can get like a side shot as well.
Multi-missile pod requires a double missile slot. Tri-fighters.
Oh, does it? Oh, yeah, it does.
Tri-fighters, and particularly Volan, does not have that.
Interesting. This actually makes me realize that the Fire Spray and Volan are the only two illicit carriers in CIS.
Yes.
I've never thought about it, but you could steal their calculates if they have them with network.
And rogues.
Oh yeah.
Oh, the rogues. No, but not the droid rogues though.
No.
Okay.
I've put together lists in the past. I've kind of moved past it, but I worth trying at some point. Put Volan together with 2 Flax, and take the notorious overtuned Volan.
Yeah.
And
okay.
if you can line up, like, this is at maximum, right?
Sure.
If your max generated token output in one turn could be an evade triple calculated Volan, because you've done overtuned and you take an evade token, and then your Flax go forward. They have something in bullseye. They take an evade. They get the bullseye calculate.
Wow.
So each flag gets an evade calc. Volan's in there with 3 calcs evade, and those 3 calcs can be shared to the Flax. But if you shoot Volan, you get notorious. So you don't really want to shoot Volan, but then the network calculates can be taken from overtuned to not deal with the overtuned issue of not spending green tokens. Stack those 3 together. Start jousting things. See how much stuff you can avoid.
Start jousting.
You can probably avoid so much damage with that. But also, that's like the max. I would assume you maybe get a bullseye from one of those flags.
Sure. Assume one.
Unless you just want to look across the board from like a ray.
Yeah.
I mean, if a ray sets up across for me, I might say sure. My 3 Tri-Fighters will give this a shot. I don't know how much damage I'm actually doing. It doesn't feel like a lot.
Yeah, they'll get one shot before they explode. Because Ray's throwing 5 or 6 dice shots back at you.
I'll have to I'll have to experiment with that.
Throwing 4 or 5.
Oh, right, 4 or 5, yeah.
Yeah, but even at 4, if you get to 4, you're at range 3, and then Ray's taking a whole bunch of shots back. Everything's basically force evaded, and then there's 2 extra calculates anyone can use.
Do the Flax? Do they have that shield upgrade?
Nope.
Or not shield upgrade. Do they have a hull upgrade? There's Pier 3 hull, aren't they?
Nope. Oh,
yeah.
None of the tries got any extra health like the Titan.
Yeah. like
Okay.
almost every other chassis at least got something somewhere. Like I think with the
Flax got a big points reduction. To be fair.
None of the Separatists got extra health.
Yeah.
All the extra health went to the Republic in that pack.
Oh yeah, the Republic got
an extra shield.
shields.
Oddball got an extra shield. Kickback.
Well, I mean, all the
Torrents got an extra
all the
hull.
TIE fighters.
Yeah, the Torrents got hull. TIE Fighters got hull. Vader got a shield.
Vader did get a shield.
Yeah, nothing in the Rebels got anything extra health-wise.
No,
that's true.
It's really weird how they split that up.
Well, it turns out having 3 health is not great. It's dangerous sometimes. You know what I mean? Without an evade token, any 3 dice attack would just take you out.
Yeah, Rebels did get regen. So
that's true. Jack and Garvin and Wedge basically got 2 extra hull. They just put him in the droid. Or no, Wedge got the R2 astromech. He can get shields. Now with those weapons disabled.
Yeah, Volan has like the Soontir problem of like he's like one bad cough away from just like disappearing.
Okay, so I don't know if you guys had looked ahead, but I will show how they had matched up to kind of round out this discussion. So they had put the silencers against what was that? Oh shoot, I closed it out now. So it was the Imperial Aces, Soontir and Vader, going up against Django, and actually that's the only one we have recorded right now, with a 28-20 win. Wow, that must have been quite the final round. I assume Django went down. I assume Django went down at the end of that to get those extra 8 points on there, which meant that Ben was the Decimator Flyer. He's matched up against Funwalk, who had oh shoot, I just lost it. Take me back. No.
Wait, no, isn't the hold on.
So Funwalk was flying the Django. So Django for them is going up against Ben, who had the Decimator. So Django and Decimator is what they ended up matching up there. Django versus the Aces.
I don't think that tracks because we're seeing this result here with Greg. Greg has the Separatist that he brought the Volan 404, which means
No, Greg.
Empire-
No, you have them switched. Greg's flying the bombardment drone. Because we were doing France.
Sure.
We were doing it from the view of France.
Yep, never mind.
No, it's okay. There was 2 similar lists, so I totally understand. But yeah, so that meant that Ben's Decimator going up against Funwalk's Volandos and Django, which left then Catherine's Silencers to go up against the Resistance. We'll see how that rounds out. It sounds like from our predictions there that Ben with his Decimator might have a better time against Funwalk, and Catherine might be. I don't know. That one's a toss-up though. That might be the tiebreaker there.
Yeah,
Ben,
I
if
think
Ben
the
beats
outcome that
Funwalk,
already happened between what we see in the results here between Greg and Corrington was I think what we expected when we thought that the Decimator with the
Aces.
no, the Imperial Aces.
sorry the aces where Moff Gideon had those cluster missiles
Right.
did go up against the droids where we thought they had that advantage of those 2 I6s against Django, and then the cluster missiles more advantageous against the multi droids that didn't have to stick together, but could end up close by.
Sure. Yeah, that'll be interesting. I think if we'll check it together, I guess. We'll see here. Back to event results. Right now, like I said, those are the top 2 squads. There is a bunch of teams, if you see here, with those 6 total wins, which would mean that they're 2-0 essentially. Oh, you can see their win record right here. So a lot of teams still 2-0. So big competition there. I'm always excited about the team events because with the planned pairing, really throws a wrench into it. Because like Swiss rounds, anything can happen, right? But you can take these lesser known squads, if you will, and find their a counter for other lists with them. So it's very interesting. To me, we'll keep an eye on that. So that's going to be going for a couple weeks here, kind of more or less congruent with the Sector series. So as we update, we'll probably update that as well. Who knows if that's who's going to pull that off? Like I said, a lot of teams still in the running. I think you got to get about 4. You at least got to go 4-1 to get into their top cut. So we'll check out with that. For the time being, though, definitely check out the results from the Sector series. They should be under, if I'm not mistaken, or roll better. You can check out the list here. We need to go to the old Roll Better, and you can find out the lists right through there. See what people have submitted so far. Though, as a reminder, those are going to update all the time. So you kind of just are seeing a snapshot of the week for play. But I think that's going to be really interesting, compiling this information about who's flying what list during what scenario as well, to see if we can get some information on what's performing better and what scenarios, and even what's performing best against each other as well. So, very exciting stuff. Of course, we have the Las Vegas Open happening this weekend. James, you're heading down there, right?
I am. It'll be me and Dion down there streaming the whole weekend. I think we're getting in on Thursday, and we stream in Swiss and the Top Cut.
That's awesome. Of course, we're going to be back here next Monday. Dion and James can give us a big rundown of the major stuff happening out there at the Las Vegas Opening. You're not leaving till...
I'll be very tired.
I'm sure you will be. Are you going to be joining me for Wednesday then, James? Or you got to fly out Wednesday night?
I'll have to see.
Okay,
I'm leaving on Thursday, but I may have plans because we have family in town. So we'll have to see.
Okay, no worries. But I'll at least be there on Wednesday, trying to catch some sector games. If you're listening to this Wednesday morning, reach out on our Discord, the best place for X-Wing and Gold Squadron information, because we would love to see those sector games whenever we can. For now, though, I think that about wraps it up. Am I missing anything, you two?
But I can think of.
Buy your plane tickets for Adepticon.
Buy your badges and tickets.
Oh,
Get your badges. Badges
Make sure you can
first.
Go, and then buy your plane ticket.
That is a good.
Actually,
good
even
sequence.
before you buy your plane tickets, get a hotel room. The order of operations is: can I get in the place? Badge. Do I have events to play in? Tickets. Do I have somewhere to stay? Hotel or Airbnb. How do I get there? Car or plane? Work that way.
Or boat.
And I think you'll.
Can you get there by boat?
You cannot get to You can get to Chicago by boat. You might have quite a journey out to Schaumburg, though. There might be a trade to Schaumburg, though. I know the Amtrak goes through Chicago, through there. If you start walking now, just start walking now.
Planes, trains, automobiles.
There you go. All right, well, we'll bring this to a close then. I want to thank again all of our supporters through Patreon and, of course, Twitch as well for getting us to these events like LVO. That's honestly the only way that we can travel to these events, do these big productions like at Worlds, is the support through the community. So really do appreciate all of that. But from us here at Gold Squadron, we'll see you next time. Gold Squadron out.